It's time for Declare Your Independence with Ernest Hancock.
Pink Floyd. Little Pink Floyd never hurt nobody. We're going to play that until I'm satisfied. A little bit more. Here we go. Yeah, some mellow headbanging, man. I'm in the mood. In the mood. A lot of stuff happened this weekend. I want to make sure I share with you, kind of get a perspective, because that's what really happens. That motivates a lot of people, is they just know what's going on, and they make decisions on their own. Well, I want to share this opinion piece done by Juan Williams, because you hear me say this over the years. I've always said, if the lamestream media, the media that's so last century, if they ever come up and say, this is the guy, this is the time, this, right here, this, that's not it. Or they're setting you up for something. Or they're psyoping you. You know, heck, we got a story on Freeman's Phoenix today. The Army is embedding psyop officers in newsrooms. This is like news to somebody. What do you think all these generals are in at the cable news guys? I mean, come on, man. It's all about controlling your noggin. So I want to read what Juan Williams had to say, and then we'll talk about it. And I think I got it up over here. Yeah, let's do that. Juan Williams. Here's a news bulletin. It is becoming increasingly clear that we are living in a time when Republican politics are being shaped by a 75-year-old, 12-term Texas congressman with a son in the Senate. And incredibly, it is no longer out of the realm of possibility that this outcast of the GOP establishment may win the party's presidential nomination. If you have not been paying attention, it is time to look around and realize that we are living in the political age of Representative Ron Paul. A CNN opinion research poll released late last week shows Paul faring the best against President Obama of any potential Republican candidate. He trails the president by only 7 points, 52 to 45% in a head-to-head matchup. Former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee trails by 8 points, and former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney down 11 points to Obama. In February, Ron won the presidential straw poll at the Conservative Action Conference for the second straight year. Last Thursday, the day of the first GOP debate, one of Paul's fabulously labeled money bombs exploded with the announcement of $1 million in contributions for the Paul campaign. The Tea Party, which drove the GOP to claim a majority of the House in the midterm elections, grew largely out of the ashes of his 2008 presidential campaign, which emphasized limited government and a return to constitutional principles. Since then, the Tea Party has bullied the Republican leadership in the House to force budget cuts at the risk of shutting down the government, and collectively become the most persistent critic of the Obama presidency on financial regulatory reform and health care. The roots of all of this are in the libertarian mind of Representative Paul. At last week's debate, put on by my other employer, Fox News Channel, I was struck by the libertarian flair the iconoclast injected into the evening. First, his presence along with another libertarian Republican, former New Mexico Governor Gary Johnson, allowed for Republicans nationwide to witness a debate in which strong arguments for immediate U.S. withdrawal from Iraq and Afghanistan came from the right. But that was just the start. There are instances where Paul's views make the Republican establishment want to scream. For example, I asked him about his stated concern that Israel will launch a unilateral military strike against Iran. He replied that Israel had become too dependent on U.S. military and foreign aid, and that it should be responsible for its own security and sovereignty. In the past, he has blasted the neoconservatives and their influence on U.S. foreign policy. He has been adamantly opposed to the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan since the beginning and has called for an immediate pullout of all troops. He rails against the American empire and argues that the U.S. spending on a global military presence should be cut, should be eliminated. Paul's thinking is also having an impact on conservative views about domestic policy. Even when he called for legalization of marijuana, cocaine, and heroin at the debate, it did not elicit hooting, but cheers from South Carolina's famously right-wing Republicans. Ron Paul's son, Rand Paul, was elected as a senator from Kentucky in 2010 with 55% of the vote. Paul is a chip off the old block, espousing many of the same libertarian views as his father. Because of this, he has become one of the most distinctive names in Republican I guess it cuts off their distinctive N, whatever that means. It was a typo in the thing. It was almost exactly 4 years ago when Ron Paul sparred with former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani in a 2008 Republican presidential primary debate. Paul said about the role of U.S. policy in bringing about the 9/11 attacks, quote, "They attack us because we've been over there. We've been bombing Iraq for 10 years. We've been in the Middle East. I think Reagan was right. We don't understand the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics." Giuliani shot back. "That's an extraordinary statement of someone who lived through the attack of September 11? That we invited the attack because we were attacking Iraq? I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean it." Who could have guessed that 4 years later, Giuliani would be off the stage while the persistent Paul is growing, exhibiting more and more power in Republican politics, shaping the GOP debates, and in the absence of any strong establishment candidate, looking like a strong contender for the party's 2012 nomination. You know, I'm like, wow. This is my concern. Sooner or later, they were going to have to acknowledge that he is a legitimate contender and candidate. You remember the last time, it's like Michelle Malkin and all these other guys, you know, and what's his name, Steele, the RNC, he's like, you know, for me, it's done. It's done. You know, Ron Paul, done. Malkin saying, oh, he shouldn't even be up on the stage, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Did that diminish Dr. Paul's influence or just make them look stupid? They're looking pretty stupid. There was a meeting. That's a long story. A bunch of us got together and, you know, and whatever. But my comment was, you know, to the campaign, and then when I had the opportunity to speak, was this. I am absolutely certain following the 2008 presidential campaign that Dr. Paul and Peter Schiff and Jim Rogers and the Mises Institute and Lou Rockwell and Austrian economics and all this is going to dominate the political discourse in this country. There is nothing they can do to stop what is inevitable. And they will seek to increase and legitimize themselves as a news organization. They have no choice. They have to. Is this what they're doing? Juan Williams coming out trying to legitimize anything he might have to say? And is it too late? Does it matter? Why are they doing it? More when we come back.